Yeah, hi guys. So the next job on the Atom, the next project, is fitting the Perspex side panels. Now, I didn't spec these when I bought the car. I always planned to actually make my own because I wanted a tinted transparent black panel, not a transparent see-through one. And also they're really expensive from the factory. I mean, from memory, they're about £600. So I just couldn't justify that amount of money for a bit of Perspex. So I figured out, like, how do I actually make my own panel, my own Perspex for both sides? So they attach to these tabs, of course. And from what I've heard, these tabs are slightly welded in different areas, depending on the chassis, depending on the car. So each car is slightly different, at least from what I've read. So there isn't, as far as I'm aware, there is no template I could download. So I looked at this chassis and thought, could it be calculated? And I came to the conclusion that I don't think it can. So what I did is I actually bought some of this card here and then overlaid it on the car and just cut it out. And you can see it took a while to do, actually. This wasn't easy, and I knew this wasn't going to be easy. So I just put it on the car and I marked it out the best I could, and the holes, these are bang on now. These holes are exactly in the right place. And I just kept cutting it away until it was perfect. Of course, it's a bit scraggy here. It's not going to look like this when I get it on the car. But this was the hardest bit, doing this. It took quite a few hours, actually. I would say probably about 2 hours to get it perfect. And I wanted it as close to the chassis as possible. So in other words, the smallest gap I can get away with. And then what I'll do is I'll mount rubber washers in behind. So in front of here, these tabs, I'll put rubber washers so that the panel can sit against it. And then I'll buy some more of these nice titanium. These are expensive, but they're lovely. These black titanium bolts will go through. They're 6mm, I think. I don't know how long they are. I need to measure it once I've cut out the Perspex. So I've got that. So then I looked on the internet for suppliers that could actually make me this, because ideally what I wanted to do is cut a digital copy of this and then give it to them and they can cut it out for me. But I couldn't find anyone. I couldn't find not one soul that would actually do this. There are companies out there that will cut to a specific shape, like with straight lines, and then drill holes for you. But I couldn't find anyone that would do something like this. So I thought, I'm on my own then. So I bought these 2 sheets here. These are much bigger than I need, and deliberately so I can practice, because I've never cut Perspex before, and it's supposed to be easy, but like anything, if you haven't done it before, it's going to take a bit of time. So this stuff is actually, to show you, it's actually really lovely. It's an acrylic, and this is what it looks like. You can just see my hand through there. So it's a nice dark grey. Officially it's a dark grey transparent Perspex. So it looked really nice on the black car. And I've heard that drilling the holes is not particularly easy. So I'm going to have a practice on that in a bit. And see how I go. And because I don't want it to crack. So I bought it from this company here. They're called Trent Plastics Fabrications. And so what I ordered was a thickness of 3mm, so 1/8 of an inch roughly. The size was 1750mm by 500. Actually, 500mm was the same price, because all I needed really was about 300mm. This is so the widest part from here to here is about 300mm, but it was the same price to go from 300 to 500. The minute you get wider than 500, the price goes right up. So I thought I might as well just go to 500mm, and then I got loads of material to practice on. So it all came to £66, which is pretty cheap, really. I think, and delivery was £7 out of that. It needs to bend, and this is quite flexible. You can see it needs to bend around the car. So originally I thought I'd have to have it bent, you know, a machine to bend it, but of course you don't. It's so elastic, it's so bendy here. It's not supposed to be brittle. So yeah, in terms of cutting it out, I've looked at loads of different solutions to cutting it out, and there's so many options, like jigsaw, handsaw. In the end, I'm going to end up using this bad boy, this good old-fashioned Dremel that I've had for years, and I'll be buying a special drill bit for it, 561 it's called, and it's meant for cutting out Perspex. And I've got like a little jig for it to go in, so this little plastic jig thing, this is actually for cutting tiles, but this will sit in there like that, and I can cut this long shape, this long curve with it. And then after that, it'll be a case of filing the edges and then using a blowtorch apparently to actually get it a nice shiny edge, to get rid of all the. I'll file it down first. I may just sand it, wet and dry sandpaper, sand it down so it's nice and smooth and transparent edges. But yeah, so the next job is to I'm going to do some practice drilling, make sure I don't split it. So I just put the template on top of the acrylic and just marked around my template and marked the holes here. And so I'm ready to cut. Actually, I decided to use this jigsaw instead. Actually, I've been doing some tests with the Dremel and with a jigsaw to see which is the best. You can see, like, I've cut a few bits off, and I found that the actual metal blade. So this one actually is a Milwaukee blade. I don't know if you can see that. The pitch of the teeth is something like 1.2 millimeters, so they're really fine, and the quality is amazing. Actually, I've been doing some tests. So here's a piece I've cut off, and it's a bit scuffed up on top because I've been testing to see how durable this acrylic is by dropping it on the floor and kicking it around a bit. It doesn't seem to be that durable. No surprise there. You can see the scratches on it. But on the car, on this panel, I mean, it's going to sit on the side here. I don't think it's, I don't know, I may get it PPF, but it may be a bit overkill because it's so cheap to buy these panels. Like this big one here cost me £28 without the shipping. So anyway, I tried cutting it, and then I tried polishing the edges. There's various ways of polishing the edges. So this, I don't know if I can get the camera on this actually, but I don't know if you can see that. But this is the edge that I cut without polishing it, and then I polished this edge. It's very shiny and glossy, like glass-like, and I don't know if you can see that. It's difficult to see on my phone. I'm filming this on a phone, and I'm really impressed with how easy this was. Actually, I used a 600 grit piece of sandpaper and wet and dry sandpaper, and then went over it on a 1200 grit to smooth it off, and then I used a metal polish, the same polish as I used for my exhaust actually, and it comes up like this. It's amazing. There are other ways of doing it, like using a blowtorch to smooth the edges, but you still need to polish it. That's the thing. You still need to sand it, because I mean this jigsaw is very, very good. It cuts, I mean, you can barely see the teeth mark, so it does a good job, but you still need to file it down. The blowtorch isn't going to get rid of those teeth marks. Then I tried drilling it. I found drilling actually quite easy. I thought it might crack a little bit, but this hole was the best one. This is the last one I did, and it's a 6mm drill bit. I used a metal drill bit, and it went through really nicely. And what I found worked the best was just full power. So full power, and then go right through, push through, not really hard, but just let the drill gradually go through the material. These other ones, I tried various techniques like slow in, fast out, or just slow altogether, and they're not bad, but they're just not as good as, you can see there's a little bit of a chip there on that one there, whereas this one is just, has it gone? This one is just, yeah, it's just perfect. Actually, I might be able to get, oh yeah, I can get zoomed. I'm zoomed in now. I need to get a decent camera, I think, for this. But you can see how shiny that is. That's from just a little bit of grit. Anyway, I'm going to put my eye protection on now and have a go at cutting this and see how it turns out. But there it is, the first couple of cuts done. Turned out pretty well, actually. This one here is pretty straight, although the straight edge I tried to use at the spirit level didn't really work. The vibrations of the jigsaw just basically, that thing just wouldn't stay still, so in the end I just did it freehand. And then this one is ever so slight curve. You can see it's not exactly flat because you just can't keep your hand straight. But so I think when I sand this down, I'm probably going to use a power tool and use this bad boy. I'll attach these. I'll cut these to size. These sandpaper. I've got all the way up to 7,000 grit here, so it starts at I think 260, something like that. There's loads of them in there, and then all the way up to 7,000. I think I'll probably go up to about 2,000 to get it nice and polished. Yesterday on the sample bit, I just used this hand piece, but I think that's okay for small parts. But to do the whole panel, both sides, is going to be pretty tiring. So I'll try that power tool. But so far it's pretty good. The only thing is it stinks like really bad smell. So you probably want a face mask when you're doing this. This bit actually, as I got to the end here, the weight of this just snapped off here. So I was lucky actually it didn't damage the actual panel that's going to go on the car. So be careful, it will just crack. So something to be aware of. So now I'll do the other two lines and then I'm done, at least with the cutting out. Here it is. This is the first panel that's been cut out now. I'm actually quite happy with the way this has turned out. I mean, I haven't prepped it at all yet. Haven't drilled any of the holes. Of course, it needs sanding the edges to make it level. You can see a couple of lessons learned because I've never cut acrylic before. If you see here, you see there's like a little jagged, a very minor jagged edge. Of course, I can sand that out. But if you stop, because it's quite a long cut, you can't really do it in one go. Or you might be able to, but you're leaning over, it makes your back ache and your arms ache. So when you stop the jigsaw, when you start it back up again, if you cut at a slightly different position, you'll get this little jagged edge, and you can see another one here. But I can sand that easily. Another lesson learned. See this bit, this didn't actually cut as well as I would like, so I have to sand that quite a bit now. It's not a problem with a power tool, but if I had to do this by hand, it'd be quite a bit of effort. But what happened here was, there was a little bit of material kind of like this, and you can't really get a jigsaw around that corner like that. Well, I couldn't. Maybe I'm not that skilled at it. It's probably the case. So as I went around a corner like this bit just snapped off, and luckily it didn't snap off into the material for the car. You know, if it broke into here, then it would have been too short, and I would have been screwed. This panel would have been a throwaway. So bear that in mind. If you've got a tiny bit of material, I would just cut it off straight off the edge like that, and then sand it. But yeah, other than that, there's no other dramas. I need to drill the holes now and make sure they line up before I stop. Because otherwise, if I drill the holes and then the thing cracks, after I've prepped it and sanded it and stuff, I've wasted all that effort. So I'm going to drill the holes first to make sure they don't crack. And with a metal drill bit, HSS drill bit, a really sharp one. And then take it from there. I've got the holes here all lined up. I need to drill. I'm going to use a Reamer tool. So I've got a Reamer tool here. So I use one of these for doing stuff like this, just creating like a little pilot hole, so you don't end up drilling in the wrong place. This is very sharp. So yeah, that's the next job. I'm about to drill the first 3 holes. So what I've done is I've put masking tape on it like this. I've made pilot holes through the masking tape. The masking tape's there to help prevent the cracking, and also when the chuck, if the chuck hits the panel, it's not going to damage the Perspex underneath. and I've got one here, and then I've got one there. Now what I'm going to do is drill those 3 holes, and then put the panel on the car, and then mark the holes from the other side, and then line up the template again, line up this template here again to make sure that these holes are absolutely correct, because I've used a template and I could have made a mistake, you never know. So it's better to be sure. It takes a bit of more effort because I have to put it on the car and then mark the holes, and then I'll flip it over and then see if they line up before drilling it, because I don't want to lose this panel. Of course they're really cheap, but it's just the time it takes to cut it and prepare it. So now so that's the next job. So I finally got the panel on, all the holes are drilled. It needs cleaning up, of course, because here you can see it needs a good sanding so it's all level, but I'm just trying to make sure the holes are drilled right first. Yeah, this is not an easy job. You can see why they cost so much, actually. It's the time it takes to do it. But we're getting there. Yeah, so the next job is to sand the bottom down. So I sort of go at the quick sanding here. I started with a 240 grit because I need to trim off about 1 mil off the bottom here, so you can see all the little blue markers there. I think I need a slightly coarser one than this though. It's a bit too smooth. And go all the way along here. It's too much material at the bottom, I think. Yeah, so now I'm going to try maybe a 180. Try that, or maybe a 150, something like that. It is on the car. I finished cutting the shape now. I'm pretty happy with this. It fits really well. I just need to polish it off now. There's a few bits that's not level. I have used a jigsaw. I had to cut this bit along here because it was you can see how wavy it is. So I will sand that down so it's straight and flat, and then go over it with a very fine grit, like a 1200 grit, and then polish the edges and obviously round it. So it's just finishing now. It's been a lot of work, this. So yeah, the next job is just to clean it up. I actually used a jigsaw to cut underneath here, which I didn't think you could do, like a tiny thin bit of material, because it was too close to the chassis here, and I don't want it flapping in the wind and damaging the chassis, taking the paint off. And all I got to do now is buy these bolts. So I'm going to get these titanium. They're very expensive, these titanium bolts, but they look amazing on here because it's a black Perspex. Yeah, these bolts are about £7 each, so it'd be about £100 just for all the bolts. But I've saved a killing making this myself. Right, that's the next job.